Hey everyone, it's Jennifer and welcome to another episode of the Wedding to Wife podcast. I just want you all to know I really appreciate you listening and tuning in and sending in your show ideas. It makes my heart so happy to know that these topics are resonating with so many people and we are going to keep this thing going. And I'm so excited about my guest today. I love to get to interview people that I know in real life because when you interview people that you don't know, they could tell you anything, right? Not that I don't believe the things that people say, but when you get to talk to people who you know are professionals in their field, they know what they're talking about, like it just kind of adds to the excitement of what we're talking about. And that is Miss Kenitres today. She's here. And I met her, I used to be a student data clerk, like, right, I did the attendance and that sort of thing. My life has gone through so many changes, y'all. And so I met her when I started working at an elementary school, and she was a teacher there, and she was so sweet. And next thing you know, I was pregnant and she was pregnant, and I'm like, where is we getting these bumps from? Like, what is going on here? But thank you for coming on today, and I want you to tell people all about your degrees and your expertise and just your life.
Well, first off, thank you for even having me on. I mean, it has been a journey. You're right. From when we met at that elementary school, and like you said, where were these bumps coming from? It's like, oh, all these babies, don't drink the water,
Don't
don't
do
drink
it.
it, because it's something going on up in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've come a long way. So I'm Kenitres Wiley. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Texas. So yeah, back in those teacher days, I was in grad school for school counseling actually, and was a school counselor for 7 years. But I took all those extra classes because I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be where I stop. So
Mm-hmm.
went ahead and finished out all the things I had to do to become an LPC years after being a school counselor. So yeah, I have a small private practice in the Rockwall area that I see individual clients, and I also have some online courses that I teach for, like, trying to empower people to take charge of their mental health journey. Yeah, my husband and I, we build furniture on the side, even though he told me not to tell people about that. But we do a little woodworking, little projects. But yeah, life has went in a completely different direction than where we started when we
Yeah.
first met.
Yeah. What do you think was a turning point for you going from school counselor to where you are now?
That's a good question. I think the turning point came in, let me just keep it real, when I realized that the way I want to help students,
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Like the
Mm.
the school counselor role has a lot of restrictions as far as providing therapy in school. That's not really what the role is per the state.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the populations,
Yeah.
who we used to work with, right?
Right.
The populations that we work with, they needed more than what the school was going to allow. And I realized, like, I could probably have a bigger impact, help more people if I'm actually able to do my job.
Yeah.
So that's where it turned. I was like, I can't keep doing this, be the
Yeah.
paperwork queen.
Mm. And it is. And it's a lot of especially when you're at a Title I school. I've only worked at a Title I schools. So it's a lot of hand holding. It's a more especially at the elementary level, it is more of a glorified mom role than a paid mom role. I won't even say glorified because parenting is unpaid. It is a paid mom role because it's a lot of like, okay, I'm going to bring this student down here with you, and they're just in here. And so it's like, what can I do? So, I think that realizing your talents and seeing where they are best served is good, but that definitely is a great segue into our topic of people pleasing. Because when you work in a school, there is a lot of that, a lot of toe the line, don't stay with the course, don't cause a ripple. But that also bleeds over into other aspects, like your wedding and wedding planning. And that is our topic for today. It is people pleasing and the anxiety that comes around having a wedding. And so we're going to dive into that topic And have you had any clients? So first, let's start here. What is the age that you serve?
So I see actually teens now, and after the chapter that we worked together and everything, I eventually went to middle school, and I
Okay.
I found out that middle school is kind of my groove, So I work with primarily 14 and older, 14 and up. But most of my clients are still adults though, but I do have some teens. So yes, people pleasing, it's like it's runs rampant through a lot of different people, and you're not being emotionally honest all the time if you're people pleasing. And when it comes to getting married, I think that shows up in so many different ways of trying to make sure that everybody's okay. And that approach later on can turn into some passive aggressive behaviors from you because you were people pleasing and not being honest with yourself. So now you're mad about it later on.
Right. And now people are calling you a bridezilla when in
Yes.
reality you're not a bridezilla. You're just fed up.
Yes, but that's that passive aggressive behavior, right? Because people pleasing can fall into that category of being passive
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, okay, you're going with the flow, you're changing things according, you're trying to meet the needs of everyone else and to make sure that everybody else is okay. But who's the only person we can control, Jen?
Yourself. That's it. You cannot control anybody else. Trust me. I would love to control other folks.
Yeah.
I
Look,
can't.
when we all though, look, we try. Like
Yeah.
even people that be like, "Oh no, I control my kids." I'm like, "Do you? Do you? Or did they make that decision when you told them not to do it? They did it
Yeah.
anyway. The
Right.
only person you control is you."
Right.
So it's tricky because I think people pleasing, sometimes we might approach it with, okay, if I do this, they'll like me,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll be chill, or that there'll be less drama, when that may not be accurate. You cannot control the actions, behaviors, thoughts of other people. And I think when people are planning their wedding, they get caught up in people pleasing to an extent, and then later on when you're fed up, it turns into something that, like, that anxiety and stress is at a max. So you may have more passive aggressive behaviors coming out.
And I think that if there was any time in life for someone to not be a people pleaser and to do exactly what they want, is their wedding. Because this is a situation where it is all about you. It is all eyes on you and your spouse, right? So as long as the two of you are happy with whatever the outcome of the situation is going to be, and of course you have to take into account if you're if somebody else is paying, because anytime somebody's paying. So my last interview, the bride, she said her mom would always say, if you ain't paying, you ain't saying. And so if the person is paying, then of course they have some type of input. But I do believe that even with that, there needs to be some type of line, some type of boundary drawn of, okay, your financial contribution does not give you 100% of, you get to make the decision. And if that's what comes along with it, then you as the bride and groom have to make that decision and say, like, okay, well, do I even want to take the money then? Because now that's going to put me back into this mode of having to people please. I don't want to invite this person and this person just because you want me to invite them. I don't know them. They've
You don't
never
know
met
them.
my fiance.
You might not even like them. Look,
I
know
don't
them.
like.
Forget know them. You might look. You people please go to an extent that you don't even like these people. Like, you don't even like them, but you're inviting them to your special day. But you're right. You said two things. You said if they in your last guest said if they're not paying, they're not saying that. I love that. I wish that people who have that maladaptive behavior of people pleasing would like internalize it,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them don't. Nobody else is paying for it, but everybody's, parents or these expectations that have been put in place, they still will lean into people pleasing, even though no one is contributing, making demands when whose pockets are these coming out of? Because if it's you and
Yes.
your fiance, everybody shouldn't even be involved. But you said something else. You said a boundary around even if they are paying. Okay, yes, paying or not paying, boundaries are important, but I think people even get those confused because a lot of times, again, the only person you can control is who?
Yourself.
Yourself. But people try to use boundaries to control other people. And that's they don't understand that the boundary is for you. If somebody crosses it, you get to choose, okay, what are you going to do because they crossed that boundary?
Yeah.
How are you going to respond? So those strong boundaries as a couple can be so important to reducing anxiety, reducing the amount of people pleasing that you engage in, because you already established where that line was before you even got into it, you know?
Right. And it's really important also, like you just said, when you have a boundary, you need to figure out what your response is going to be. So it's kind of like, if you have a trademark on your business, right, that is so that nobody can cross your intellectual property boundary. Mm-hmm. However, if somebody does, if you don't do anything about it, or you don't have the resources, because if I infringe on your trademark, then I have to be able to have a lawyer to come after you to send a cease and desist. I have to be able to do all of these things to back up what I'm saying I'm gonna do. So I have to have some type of plan in place. If you know you are a known people pleaser, you need to have a plan in place of, if this boundary is crossed, this is how I feel like I need to handle this, and have that conversation with your spouse as well, so that it's no surprises. So if you know you're a very passive person, you need to say, hey, if your mom does XYZ, like, this is how I'm going to have to respond to this situation. Like, we're going to have to tell her whatever. Me personally, I don't need a plan, because I am the boundary. And so what we not going to do is cross me, right? Because when I attached myself to the boundary, and I think that that's what people don't do. They think it's this separate thing. And it's no, Jennifer is the boundary. So if you cross this line, then you crossed me personally, and I'm taking it personally. And so I think if you attach yourself to the boundary, then it's a more, you feel almost more disrespected, to where it's like, you take it more personally. If I say no children are allowed at my wedding.
Oh, girl, don't even get me started. If you
no kids are allowed at my wedding. If I say that, then I don't want to hear the grumblings of, well, how come she saying that can't no kids come and blah, 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 blah. And then you bring your kids. You just show up and you got your kids. Well, now you and your kids got to go home.
But that's important. But like, you're like, hey, you know, you crossed this line. Like, this is my reaction. My request is that you leave.
Kids at weddings is not my thing.
Look, it's some people, it is their thing. But I had an adult only wedding, and you would not believe the grumblings that came from it. But the people pleasing tried to show up, and I got really overwhelmed with anxiety around the whispers and the adult parents just all in it of like, well, why? You don't want flower girls? You don't want No, I don't. I didn't. Girl,
she gonna stop halfway. She gonna stop halfway down the aisle. We're gonna have to go get her.
No,
the ring bear crying.
No, I had grown people. I couldn't keep them together.
Yeah.
Let alone the little people. But look, when you're talking about attaching the boundary to you personally, like, you are the boundary, like that emotional response it is stronger if you're attaching yourself to it. So being aware of that, and the planning, as you were saying, that comes into assertive communication style. People do not realize how important it is to start practicing being more assertive. We're so used to either being passive or aggressive. Like a lot of us, we're like, we're being aggressive. It's like, no, in the middle of those two is being assertive. That's where, but you know, for us, I don't know about you, but I feel like, especially amongst the Black community, and like people of color, it's disrespectful to be assertive.
Oh yeah.
Like, how dare you, like, communicate your wants and needs clearly and concise? Like, how dare you do that? So that's tricky because it transfers into adulthood. So then you're getting married.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you challenge me? Like,
Yeah.
you giving me pushback when I want your auntie's cousin's brother, sister to come to this wedding, and they
Girlfriend that
can't,
they met
they
3 days
can't be the
ago.
flower girl.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It's a lot, especially like in-laws. So like my mother-in-law and I have not always had the best relationship. And so it was a situation of, the people around her personality type is very dominant, very, very, very alpha dominant. And everybody around her just kind of like, oh, whether they agree with it or not, like, oh, that's just how she is. Like, and so when I came into the picture and I challenged that, it was, oh, she's disrespecting me. And you view it as disrespect because everybody around you has allowed that behavior to be seen as it's okay. And then you have this outside person that comes in and tells you like, that's not okay. And these are my boundaries. So like, I can't allow you to talk to me in this way because I feel disrespected. And so because I feel disrespected by what you're saying, then I can handle this one of two ways. Like I can remove myself from this situation and never come back over here again. Like that's fine. But then how is that going to affect you and your child? Like I'm not ever going to tell him he can't come, but where do you think he's gonna lean towards? I mean, because you're the one being disrespectful. So it's taken years and years of growth, and I'm thankful that that's not the case for us anymore. But it was definitely a testament of people pleasing. Sometimes people please because they feel like it's not even worth it to say anything. And there are some
mhm.
instances where you definitely have to pick your battles. But if it's something that is like tapping on the integrity of the person that you are and the life boundaries that you set for yourself, like I believe that there are like personal boundaries and then there's like life boundaries. So like life boundaries for me are like blatant disrespect. Like
Okay.
the someone being disrespectful is like a life boundary and it's like something I cannot tolerate. I don't care what position you're in,
Okay.
you're a position of authority, whatever it is, blatant disrespect is a no for me and I'm gonna have to check it every single time. Now that a personal boundary would be like working with white people and somebody like touching your hair. Like
Like, don't
to
touch my.
don't touch my hair, but it's not one of those things that I personally view as like, and she touched my hair and I just felt so, because that's not a life boundary for me.
Hmm.
Someone disrespecting other people in my presence, like that's a life boundary. Like we're not gonna do that. We're
Hmm.
not gonna like, so it's just certain things where it's like you have things where on any given day you can be like, I ain't really tripping. It's it's not a big deal. Like those are just kind of like the day-to-day things. But then you have those things as an individual that are like hardcore bred into you. Like if somebody does this, like there's no coming back from that for us because
Because they
we're
crossed that
done.
life boundary. But you
Cause you
know what I
cut
call that too?
what?
A trigger. It's
Yeah.
it's like if you are triggered by them crossing that life boundary, like it could be a point of no return, but that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Don't trigger me.
Yeah, crossing life boundaries.
Don't
Like,
cross my life boundary because I feel like now the disrespect is too much. Like when I started back working last year, um, and I'm a firm believer in like addressing things. Everything doesn't have to go from like 0 to 100. Like I
okay,
feel like when something happens, address it. So when I went back to work last year, I was the executive assistant at an elementary school. And so the lady before me had been there for years. Well, when you've been the exec for a long time, people, and you do things a certain way, and you know people
Well,
gravitate towards that, and that's how so and so did it, and such and such and such.
that's how it's
Especially,
always been
that's
done.
how it's
That's how
always
it's
been.
always been done.
Yes, especially older women who have been execs, they tend to take on that role at a personal level, to where like this is their thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they let a lot of stuff slide that really shouldn't slide because they're like the mama of the office, right? So when I came in, it was, oh well, we'll just say Susie. Oh, Susie did it like this. Oh, are you the new Susie? Oh, are you the new Susie? Are you the new, oh, and this is how Susie did it. And so I would just address that straightforward. I'm like, I'm not the new Susie. I am the new exec, because Susie is a person and the exec is a role. So I'm the new exec and my name is Jennifer. And so it was so, well, she would do this and she would do that. And so I didn't have chairs in my office. And so they're like, oh, what happened to the chairs that were in here? And I'm like, well, I took them out, because apparently Susie would let people come in there and they would sit and they would chat and they would chat it up.
And you're like,
And
no, I'm trying to get work done. I'm not
listen,
here to I'm
yeah,
not hang out with.
they're like, oh well, Susie was like the mom of the office, and I'm like, well, baby, listen, we the same age. I'm not your mama. I got 3 sons and they daddy at home. Like, I am coming in here to be efficient, to do my job, and to go home. But instead of me internalizing like, oh, they keep saying I'm the new such and such, and letting that, I just would
Yep.
address it.
You could have fell into people pleasing with
Right.
that
Like,
real
oh
easily. Like,
yeah,
oh,
oh well, she used to put my off days in for me, and she
yeah.
used to, well, let me show you how to do it. And after I show you how to do it, I'm gonna send this email out to everybody, because obviously you're not the only one. So I'm gonna show everybody how to do it and let it be known that this is not my job to do that for you. And so my principal, who she was our Miss Miss Erickson. She doesn't care. Miss Erickson. She was my principal at
At our old school, she was one of the
yeah,
APs.
yeah.
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
was my principal there, and it was so funny because she had posted on Facebook. She's like, "Hey, I'm looking for an executive assistant. If anybody knows anybody," and I text her, and I'm like, "Hey, you still need an exec?" She's like, "Yeah, come up here tomorrow." And then I got up there and we talked and hugged, and she's like, okay, let me show you your office. And I'm like, oh, was that the interview? Like, okay, great. So I left. I said, Tavar said, well, what happened? I said, well, I guess I got the job. She showed me my office and walked me around.
Well,
So
you got voluntold for that
yeah,
job.
she's like, yeah, so let me show you where you're gonna sit. And I was thankful to have her as my boss, because every decision or thing that I did, she backed.
Okay.
So and to me, that's important. Even, and we can to tie that back into your wedding and your life, having a spouse that backs you is super important, because
Yes, it is.
if I say, hey, we're not having any kids at our wedding, and then your cousin calls you directly and says, well, I don't have a babysitter because my mama going and she the one that watch my kids, so if she go, then I'm not gonna have nobody to keep the kids. As my partner and as the person needs to back me, dead that.
Yeah.
We said no kids.
Yeah, we said what we said, but assertively communicating that and keeping in the loop with each other about that communication can
Yeah.
reduce not only reduce the pull to people please, but reduce the anxiety that you may feel, that you're like, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I making the wrong decisions? Like, are you putting other people's wants and needs before your own in these circumstances? Because that's where that lack of boundaries pops back up. So yes, like communicating with your spouse is huge. Like I'll tell you something. There was a situation, okay, when we were getting married. I mean, it's been 12 years now. My husband and I've been married for 12 years. We've been together on and off for 20, but that's a whole nother story. break up to make up, okay? But best decision ever. Best decision. Like, but the getting married part, we wanted to get married at the beach. Like
Okay.
that was girl, we went to Cancun, we were looking places like we were getting married at the beach. That was what was gonna happen. And I hate to throw her under the bus, but I'm gonna put it out there. You know, she know it's true. My mother-in-law said, "Y'all can get married in Mexico if y'all want to. I'm not coming."
Mm.
She
Okay.
said, "Y'all get married down there if y'all want to. I'm not coming." She has this very intense, almost irrational fear of going to Mexico, right?
Oh, okay.
So it turned from, oh, we get married at the beach. Like we had made up our mind, communications clear, we get married at the beach, to the people pleaser in me. Like I had always been that kid. Like, but the people pleaser in me was like, am I really gonna not
Not have
have
his mom
my
there.
mama there? Like, because that was the real question. Am I really going to do that?
Yeah.
Right. So the plan changed because I caved. And
Right.
I still really wish I would have held strong, but I didn't. I caved. But tell me why we got married on a Thursday in Austin. Everybody mad. Like, everybody
Mm.
mad. Why you get married on Thursday? I was like, y'all got the $20,000 catering minimum for a Saturday?
Correct. And people don't get that.
You got the catering minimum? Because it's cut in half during the week. Like, you got the catering minimum. Oh, okay. Oh, you don't have it. All right.
If you
So
ain't paying, you ain't saying. Let's
if you
go.
ain't paying, you ain't saying, right? That's what she said. I love it because no one is contributing to this, but everybody's mad that it's still inconvenient. We
Yeah.
want to get married in Mexico on the beach.
Yeah.
We could have went to the beach, but long story short, we got back on the same page of communication, like Wayne and I. So that when we finalized, yes, we're gonna get married on that Thursday in Austin. This is what we are doing. Everybody's mad. We are on the same page. So
Yeah.
he started blocking stuff for me, like, because I'm
Mm.
getting all kinds of flack from, why are there no kids invited to this wedding? Why is it on a Thursday? And again, the people pleaser and the anxiety will ramp up, like, everybody's coming for me. Like, this is supposed to be special.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling like this is special. I'm feeling like this is becoming overwhelming.
Yeah.
And now it's not fun. Like,
So all of y'all family lives, because y'all are from the Dallas area. So all of y'all
we grew up around here. I'm from Arkansas originally. So
Okay.
my whole family lives in Arkansas.
So they were having to travel regardless.
Yeah, regardless, everybody was gonna have to get into somebody's car.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
everybody. Oh, y'all, look, my wedding got smashed. Like, we can't do. Okay, we're not getting married on the beach. Everybody getting in the car.
Yeah.
Everybody. It wasn't a spite thing. I know it sounds like that, but it wasn't. But the communication, when we did get back on the same page, at one point we had 30 different people that never sent in an RSVP. Never RSVP. Never sent anything. So the cutoff date, it was like 2-3 weeks past it at this point, right? I told Wayne, I was like, I need somebody to like let these people know that like our guest list is now closed.
Yeah.
And we never heard anything from anybody. We're gonna have to stop there. We're gonna have to check in with a couple people, but we're gonna have to stop.
Yeah.
Ooh. When I tell you, you said earlier, having a spouse that supports you, having a fiance that supports you, being on the same page about the communication, because people being frustrated that like, oh, well, I was going to send that next week.
If it's not a priority for you, then I can't make your delayed response a priority for me.
Yeah.
You grown. Because if I told you, hey, meet me, if I told you on January 1st, on October 2nd at 10 o'clock, meet me at this address, I'm going to give you $1 million. I bet you I didn't have to remind you. I wouldn't have had to say anything. You would have just did it because you felt like you were getting something from it. But because it was not a priority to you, you chose not to respond to something that is important to me, and I'm paying for this. Like, when people struggle with minimizing their guest list, one of the first things I always tell them is that, like, first of all, if you won the lottery, who would you call and tell them, quit your job, I'm gonna take care of you for the rest of your life? Okay, so write those people down.
Oh,
I'm sure it's not a lot of people, right? So
nope.
now these are your necessity people. So that means that anybody that comes after that, then you say, under any given circumstance, if it was this person's birthday and they were having $100 plate dinner, would you and your spouse go to this person's dinner and spend $200 on y'all to eat a meal with this person? Okay, I'm sure that list of people is not that long. So it's really easy when you attach a financial dollar to people's value in your life as it relates to your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to cut that guest list down.
Look, if I would have had that, the way you just phrased that and just gave me that scenario, if I would have had that, like, ooh, chopping all these people off.
Chop them off.
But the people pleaser in a lot of people, you will sometimes neglect your own boundaries. You will neglect what
Yeah.
your own self-care and your needs. But if you ask yourself those hard questions, those are some hard questions. But if you ask yourself the hard questions, they make it so much simpler for you to bring that list down.
It is. And especially when you're having, now I've had brides on here who've had 200, 300, 400 people at their wedding, like big huge weddings, right?
That made my head hurt.
I don't even know them kind of people. And a lot of people that they had there, like, they didn't personally know. And so but when you're having a smaller, more intentional wedding, I do believe that not everybody should get a plus one. I am not a fan of everybody getting a plus one. I just went to a wedding. I just went to a wedding last week. It was the week before last. It was on a Thursday, and I was invited, and my husband was not invited. And he made the comment. He was like, "Dang, they didn't give you a plus one. You're married." And I said, "Well, you don't know her. You don't know her husband. They don't know you. So in any other circumstance, would they pay $75 for you to eat?"
Ooh. The Tavares like pause.
He was like, "Oh." I said, "In any other circumstance, would you pay $75 for them to eat?" And he was like, "Oh." I said, "Exactly." I said, "So when people don't invite everybody and their cousin or everybody and their man, me being married or not, like, you don't know these people. So to feel entitled to come to somebody's wedding day just because your spouse is invited, it's not a kid's birthday party. Hell, even with kids' birthday parties, when it's like 10 kids, we just went to Strike and Reel for my son's birthday party. It was every 10 kids, the package was like $350.
For every 10 kids?
For the group of 10, it was like $350. It included an hour of bowling, game cards, pizza, drinks, all of this stuff, right? So for like 300, the access to the arcade, and then for every child after that, it was like $25 per kid.
Okay.
So that meant that the older cousins that my kids have, y'all not invited. First of all, my baby is 9, you 16, you're not coming, because his friends are actually coming. So you have to have these conversations, and it does not bother me to say no. Or if I have a friend that has like 8 kids, okay, well, look, I'm gonna come pick up the one that's the closest in age to the party, and I'm gonna come get him. And we gonna go, and when we done, I'm gonna bring him back, because I'm not about to put myself in a bind spending $1,000 on a kid's birthday party so that everybody can bring their kids. But the people pleaser in people will have you bring in 100 kids. Now, when we had Maddox's birthday party last year, it was at our house. He wanted a gaming truck for his birthday, and so we were like, well. So in our house, we have a theater room and a game room. And so we were like, you have a PlayStation in the theater room. In the game room is 2 TVs on the wall. One has a PlayStation, one has an Xbox. You have Oculus, whatever system that exists, they own it. I'm like, this is a damn game truck. Like we gonna have this. Listen, we gonna put some decorations up, get everybody, and then because of that, we can invite whoever you want to invite. There is no cap on who you can invite. This person's coming and needs to bring their little brother with them. Bring them.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's fine. But see, I think people also don't take into consideration, like, when my sons are invited to a birthday party, they're a grade apart. So they typically have like the same circle of friends to a certain extent. Yeah. So like if Maddox, which is my 5th grader, if somebody invites him somewhere, I'm obviously bringing Jackson. But I let the mom know, like, hey, my 9-year-old is going to come with me and we're going to pay for him once we get there. Like, we're going to go ahead and take care of, and pay for him. And because I don't want you, because I know it's a package of kids. So we're going to pay for him. Because I want to say that part up front so that it's not even like that awkwardness of like, are they expecting me to pay for the other kids? Or,
no, it's clear. It's clear expectations.
Clear as day. And then the mom may come back and say, oh, it's fine. The package is for 10. We only have 8 kids. So let them come back and tell you something different. Never assume that somebody is going to pay for something. And when you look at weddings out of the feelings sense of it and look at it for what it is, and that is a dollar amount that is being spent, yes, you will quickly understand and realize how insignificant certain things and people are in reality in your life.
It's true. Like you said about the +1 situation, like everybody doesn't need the +1, but it's like we had the same thing. There were select people that we did not give them +1s. Like I wanted 75 guests. I ended up with 98. Okay. And even that was still like, I felt some kind of way about those extra 20 plus people. But the people that didn't get +1, got angry voicemails, which my, at the time, fiance, now husband, returned those voicemails. He called the people back like, hey, we can't allow you to have a +1. Like, he is very good at being assertive and upholding boundaries. Like, but he's very like you, like this is who he is. Me, I pulled more towards like the more anxious style of approaching it, right? Yeah. And it's taken a lifetime of unlearning to work through that. But people were very upset that they didn't get a +1. But just like you said, I don't know your spouse or your boyfriend
of the week.
Yes, I don't know this person. They don't know me. They don't know my fiance. Please enlighten me as to why I want to share my moment with them. So it brings you back to honor your needs. Like, honor your needs and your well-being. And you are not responsible for people's reactions to your boundaries. Yes. Like, because a lot of people want to take that on. That'll bring out the people pleasing too. Like, oh, I made them feel. They feel the way that they feel. Yeah. Because you communicated something that may have triggered them, that may have brought about some discomfort in them. They need to explore that. But you have to honor your needs and honor what it is that is going to keep you balanced. Because getting married is stressful enough.
Man. Like, it's one of the most, I mean, when you look at the list of like the most stressful things, getting married, buying a house, having a child, like those are like the top life things, because all of those things deal with money.
Money? Yes, it is money. Money, they're all major life transitions that involve money. Yes.
And I think, again, getting married, yes, it's this beautiful experience and fairy tale and all these things, but it's also a huge financial commitment. No matter the size of your wedding, because money spent is money spent. So if you spend $5,000 or $50,000, like, you still spent the money, because everybody's $50,000 to you could be $5 to Beyonce, 50 cents to Beyonce. Like, so everybody is spending something. And I think that setting safe financial boundaries is also something that's really important, because we talk about people pleasing, but then we also have like self pleasing, right? So
Yeah.
it's that sounded
Not
freaky, but
telling your that's another telling
yeah,
yourself no.
not telling yourself no, right? Like, I deserve this.
Yeah.
I should
Yeah, but
have.
do
Do you?
you?
Do you? I
I
should have the
know.
wedding of my dreams. I deserve this. And you're going into debt, or but behind your wedding day, because you lack boundaries in your own personal life. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that people who lack self boundaries tend to be people pleasers as well, because you live in this mind frame of like, treat yourself, and I want to treat the people around me good. I'm gonna treat myself good, and you can treat yourself well and have a boundary,
Yeah.
because there is no reason why. The money is the money. If you make, well, just $50,000 a year, right? If you make $50,000 a year and your fiance makes $50,000 a year, first of all, in this economy, that's high for a lot of people. So if y'all $100,000 a year household, okay, how are you gonna have $100,000 wedding when you gotta eat, you gotta pay the bills, you gotta do all these things, and it's not realistic. Like, break down. I tell my brides, break down. If you want to buy something, break it down by how much you make an hour. So if you want to wear a pair of $1,000 red bottoms to your wedding day, how
Mm-hmm.
many hours are you having to go to work to afford that one pair of shoes? And I don't know if y'all ever had red bottoms on before. They're not the most comfortable thing. They're not for everybody's foot. I do not own a pair.
I do not own a pair, tried on a pair once, and I don't have a natural arch in my foot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more difficult.
Yeah, and I
Me,
got a wide, fat foot, so
look,
it's
I
like,
got wide and flat. My feet are flat and wide. So, but I hear what you're saying. You're like, but you're gonna spend this $1,000 to say that you wore the shoes.
yeah,
But it's tricky because you're trading possible lower stress, um making sure that you're on, like, I was going back to like really looking at the big picture, reducing the anxiety that you have about your wedding. You may be having delayed anxiety about it
yeah,
after the fact because you spent all of this money not really putting like that boundary in place with yourself, telling yourself no, and then the anxiety for the wedding could be delayed. It may
yes.
not be on the front end, but it could be on the back end once you realize,
When you hungry,
yes, when all of the mountain of debt has accumulated and you are responsible for anything and everything that you have racked up
yeah.
because of it. So yeah, you want those red bottoms. I hear it, but how much anxiety are those red bottoms going to give you? Is it worth the financial strain you could possibly put yourself in because
Yeah.
you got those shoes? So that's hard.
And now you're starting your marriage off in debt, and I'm just not a fan of it. And you know, we live in this, when it comes to weddings and having nice weddings, people on the internet tend to say, well, you could have had a new house instead of the money you spent on a wedding. And I don't really believe in the either or culture. I am a both type of girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would rather make it to where I can have both than have to choose from one or the other if they're both a priority. And so
Yeah.
it's like, you just kind of got to figure out where you are in life. So if you are in a space in life where you want to spend, $100,000 on a wedding, because you know that the life plan that you and your husband have is, for the next 3 years, we're going to live in this, it's just the two of us. We're going to live in this little studio apartment, and we're going to save up because we know at this point now we want to buy a house for whatever reason. Okay, great. That's your plan. The problem is people don't have a plan and they just out here winging it. And that is where the problem lies. Because if you have a plan, it's nobody else's business that you have one except the two of you. So I'm talking to the people who know that they don't have one and they need to get one.
Mm-hmm.
It's make a plan between you and your spouse and stick to it.
No, but
And
see, I agree. Make a plan and make a plan for yourself, stick to it. But here's the thing. I think that it also calls for like sticking to the plan can also have a level of flexibility to it though.
mhm,
Like I don't ever want to put that out there. Like even when working with my clients, it's like, yes, goals are detrimental to
mhm,
life, no matter what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So the plan that you do have that for your marriage, for your financial situation, your whatever it is that you have, be psychologically flexible because the plan may change
mhm.
due to necessity. And how you I know people can't stand pivot, but how you pivot,
Mhm.
how you as a unit, couple, a married couple are flexible with that. How do you change? How do you not let it like crumble your entire
Yeah,
foundation? The plan
right.
change is
I
important.
agree. I agree with that because you could get pregnant and y'all living you may have had this we want to live downtown high rise living in this studio and now here comes
Look,
twins.
you out in Royce City, McClendon Chisholm, like, way out east. You
And
like
now
crossing this water to get
and
home.
and now you live up 30 and you like how did we get here? How did we get here?
These
And
kids.
and these kids and I love it. You know, I
Yeah.
I, I love it. I love the type of environment that we've been able to make for our kids. And I will say this is that we set these timelines and boundaries for our these timelines, not boundaries. We set these timelines for ourselves and we say by the time I'm 30, I don't know why 30 is always such like a by
It
the time
is.
I'm 30, I want to be. So my thing was by the time I'm 30, I want to own a home. I want to be done having kids. I want to be fully into my career. Like, I just want life to be lifing and we just like coasting along, right?
Hmm.
I was 34 when we bought our house. I was 34 when I had my last baby. Um, I am 37 and now I'm running my business full time. And I will say this, it feels accomplishing a goal feels just as good no matter what age you are. And I think that if we did not get so caught up in I have to have this done by this,
The
that in
timelines.
the
But
timeline.
I ask people all the time, like when we're talking about anxiety, like as it like for weddings or just
Mm-hmm.
your life, like the timelines that you live on. Like some people have been engaged for a year, 2 years, and they're overwhelmed with the expectation of
Mm-hmm.
people like asking, like, well, why aren't you married yet? These timelines, I'm like, are you living on your timeline or are you living on someone else's timeline? Whose
Exactly.
timeline are you living on?
Exactly. It's
Make it
hard.
yours. But that's where the plan comes in. Like you said, the plan comes in and reduces the anxiety you may be experiencing because you're living on your timeline.
Yeah.
Being true to the timeline that you are creating and being flexible when it changes.
Yeah.
'Cause you're right. Look, I'm older than you, I'll be 30, 39 this year. So I'm creeping towards 40, but
Yeah.
I'm not slowing down. I'm probably speeding up.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like
Yeah.
I'm
It
like, I
is.
don't know where 30 popped into everybody's mind. I'm like, nah, I'm looking forward to 40. Like the level of how much I guess let other people's emotions impact me just keeps shrinking as
Oh,
we get older. It's like, oh, I'm loving this getting older thing.
it is. The older I become, the more confident I become because I am like I take my role as a mom and wife serious. And so it's like I'm not that foundation is set so like I'm not easily like shaken like when something happens or if there's a comment made about like so why you let your kids do such and such. Like one of the biggest struggles that my mom personally has is that I allow my kids to ask why. So I grew up with I said it. That's the end of discussion. Don't
Yeah.
ask me
I mean, that's what
nothing.
most of us did. Like,
Yeah.
look, children are supposed to be seen and not heard type
Seen
of
and not heard.
mentality. Yeah.
Right. So with my kids, it's, if I tell you, if you ask me, hey, can I have this? And I say no. And then you say, well, why not? I'm not offended by you asking me why not, because two things. Number one, as a child, I wanted to know why not, right? And then the second part is that it really allowed me to kind of start checking myself, because I was saying no out of routine. Like, can I do this? No. Can I do no? And it's like, well, why are you saying no? It's because, can I have, like my son, can I make some hot chocolate? And in my brain, so I instantly said no, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, is this finna be a mess? I'm gonna have to clean it up, or I'm gonna have to direct y'all how to clean it up. Somebody gonna start arguing about something. Some gonna get left out. Like, all of these things. But when in reality, it's like, okay, yes, but if you don't put this stuff back up the way you supposed to, then don't ask me to tomorrow, because you know you didn't do what you're supposed to do today. So it really allowed me to be a more intentional parent, with just like not hollering no every single time. But it's like, I don't have a problem explaining to you. If you ask me why, I can say, well, yesterday you made hot chocolate, you left all the stuff out, you made a mess, so on and so forth. But see, that's where I did it. Like, we're not going to go back and forth. Like, you're allowed to ask me why, and then I can give you an answer. But then we not about to banter back and forth about anything. Because to me now, that's my parenting cut off. Now, when my kids have kids, they may let their kids keep the conversation going. I don't know. But my mom wouldn't even have had the courage to ask my mama, well, why not? Because in fear that she would knock me across the room.
Look, I'm telling you.
And I have to remind her, girl, that was abuse.
Look,
Like,
tell me straight up, she's like, don't you know I'll knock all your teeth out your mouth? I was like, what? What's teeth out there?
and it's like, now we're adults, and it's just kind of like, okay, well, and you realize, like, bro, like, that shouldn't have been a thing, right? Like,
It's tricky. It's hard. I mean, but the type of communication that you're trying to open up, like, I think you're going to encourage the boys to communicate assertively, not be passive in style, but not be disrespectful either. Like you said, life boundaries. Like, we definitely had a different taste.
Ooh.
And times change. When we know what's that saying? When we know better, we do better, right?
When you and when people say stuff like breaking generational curses, like, to me, that is just not a saying. Like, that is a thing, because if most of the time when your first reaction is like anger, that's because that's what you're used to. So having to like deviate from that, like, I'm a lot calmer than my husband is, in a sense of, like, when something happens, I'm just kind of like, okay. And so, but for him, when something happens, it's like this, it's a bigger deal than I personally would make. And so I have to remind myself, he's not wrong for his response. It's just not the response that I feel like the situation needed. And I just try to level things out. So, like, both of us can't be in here high strung and high, something happens and it's like, well, why did that happen? And I'm just like, he says that I'm real, like, I'm the laid back parent, because I'm like, it, especially like before school, right? So, like, this morning, Tavares went upstairs to go, he does all the back to school clothes shopping. So he goes upstairs and he goes into Maddox's room, and he is looking for this pair of shoes that he just bought Maddox. And so he's like, the shoes that I bought Maddox, this particular pair, are not in his room. So the other day, the kids were cleaning out their closet, bringing down all their old shoes, and they were throwing stuff into the corner, blah, 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 blah. So he's like, if Maddox threw these, and now mind you, Maddox wears a size 12 in men's. He is 10 years old. So as you can imagine, shoes are not cheap because
Yes.
he's in a grown man's shoe.
Yes.
So
Input.
Tavares was pissed. He's like, this shoe is not in his house. Like, it's nowhere to be found. So now Maddox is like, I don't remember seeing the shoe. He's getting worked up. And so I'm like, listen, whatever's going to happen with this situation is going to happen after school. So it's no point of us even like going through these motions right now before he goes to school. Like, leave it alone. And when I'll go look for the shoe because I'm sure I'm going to find it. Because first of all, can't none of them find nothing. So I'm sure I'll find the shoe. But it's like, I'm just not I'm not a believer in like escalating things before kids go to school.
Well, we've seen though.
Yeah.
I've seen some things when they come in
Yes.
with fight or flight already activated. They come in with high levels of anxiety. They come in that way. It makes for a very, like, just the day is not productive.
The day is not productive.
But you know that.
Right.
Not everybody realizes you took it there. In that power struggle, matching this energy at 7 o'clock in the morning, their day has been kind of set from how
right.
It's
and so, then is this internal battle of him feeling like, I'm not backing him in this situation. I'm just letting it go. And so once the kids were dropped off and we were back at home, I was like, it's not that I'm not backing you. It's just that in this exact moment, there is nothing that we can do about this situation but get him to school. If you're telling him you're going to take his computer, you're going to do whatever, like I'm taking your computer, I'm taking your phone, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. He's not about to use any of that stuff while he's at school. So the fact that that's sitting on his head all day, when one of his friends say, oh yeah, well, we're going to get on the computer, and he knows oh damn, I'm not going to be able to use. Let's deal with that at home. He didn't went to sleep. It's over with. Like, let's move forward. And I'm sure I'll go find the shoes, because once we get off this call, I'm going to go look for these shoes. Okay? Because
I'm going to find these shoes. But
I'm finna find these shoes because you better leave my baby alone. Like,
but what you're saying though, like, it's like, again, I think you've been married, 13 years?
Yeah.
It's like, I've been married 12. I mean, I think for the relationship, like, and I'm not a marriage therapist. I'm putting that out there. Full disclaimer. I'm a licensed professional counselor, but I do not see couples, because it's like the times that I had, I feel like I'm a mediator in a fight.
Yeah.
So, but prioritizing communication, like, I think I don't know what we were talking about. It was something about prioritizing love, but I think communication and like you being able to be that calm in that balance and being able to communicate with each other in an effective way will take you so far. From not only planning a wedding all the way to, like, hopefully a lifetime of being in this partnership with somebody, because you gonna go find this shoe, and then
I'm gonna find it.
You will continue from there. But it's important to understand. Like, I know you said that you and Tavares approach things differently. I think you have been together for quite some time to where you kind of understand why.
Oh, definitely.
But understanding the why behind it can help us as spouses.
Yeah.
To show up for each other in more impactful ways.
Yeah.
Because if we're minimizing each other's experiences and minimizing each other's emotions, it's not helpful, because then it's invalidating in a way, and people sometimes seek out validation from their spouse or their partner. So
100%, because Tavares' mom, like I said, is very aggressive, and so it is, even with him actively all this time saying like to do something different, is still embedded in you, to where when something happens, you're just used to this being it's instant aggression. It takes so much from me sometimes to like not react. It takes a lot. Like, it is a very intentional thing for me to not lose my shit. Like it really does, because it's like, that's not the kind of mom I want to be. That's
Yeah.
not the kind of wife I want to be. I don't want to raise children who have to recover from their childhood. Like, I want them to feel loved and respected and valued. And I feel like if you go to work and somebody gets on your nerve, you will address the situation with them. I'm never going to get in a shouting match with anybody.
Yeah.
But you can address something and say, hey, like, the way you just handled that situation, like, we're not going to do that. Like, this, we're going to go ahead and address this now and draw this line. And if you can give these strangers that type of respect and reaction, why won't you give it to the people who you claim you love the most?
It's like you said earlier, generational trauma is very much a real thing. And you said embedded, like I refer to it as conditioning. We have all been conditioned. We have all been conditioned to respond to certain stimuli in a certain way. And you use the word intentional a lot. I think it is extremely intentional to recognize that you're in a loop of generational trauma. To, like, I mean, you may not be able to just bust it wide open and get out of there, to put a crack in it, to start this process of dismantling the conditioning that you've had. It is extremely intentional to unlearn behaviors that no longer serve you. Going into marriage, if you haven't unlearned them, it's a crucial conversation that you kind of have to have together, is like understanding the why behind some of these behaviors. Like, you understand the why, but making a plan, like you talking about plans earlier, making a plan for how are we going to be intentional about moving away from these behaviors. We know this no longer serves us. And that shit is hard.
Whew, baby.
Like, I'm not going to be like, oh no, it's so easy to just flip. It's not a flip of the switch. Like, I said, in my big age, because I'm 38, I told you it's taken me probably 15 years to get to this point to where people pleasing is not something that's prevalent in my personality. But you could take that all the way back to childhood as to why I felt like that's something that how I needed to show up.
Right.
And that's that conditioning. Tavares has been conditioned. To an extent, we have all been conditioned to respond to certain things in a certain way.
Yeah.
How are you going to be intentional about changing it?
Yeah, because baby, when I tell you, being at work with people and even working with brides, like, I establishing that respect level. So, like, I have it in my contract that, like, I do not talk to third party people. Like, all communication is between me and my couple, because it's been a situation where, the mother or mother-in-law has hopped into the conversation, wants to send an email and have a say and have this, that, and the third. And I just literally respond back. Like, if I get an email from somebody that's not the bride or the groom, I just respond back and CC the couple on the email, like, with that piece from their contract that says all due to us wanting to make sure that we are staying on topic, staying on task, like, we have to only communicate with the couple. So please direct all your information to them. They can send it to us, because that's what's gonna stick. And so we've dealt with disrespectful people, drunk people, people lose their minds. And it is difficult as a Black woman in general. Anytime you are assertive, you are, it's,
it's seen as aggression.
Oh, wow. She is so aggressive, and she's
not. You're being assertive.
And this is my business. And it's always funny when we go to weddings, and because I don't really like physically go to a lot of them anymore. And so when I am there, members of my team are white. And so, they'll talk to them like a guest or dad or whoever, and they'll be like, man, so, because I guess the couples mentioned like, oh yeah, so and so owns this company, and so they'll be like, man, you own this company, because they'll see them working. You've owned this company. You put this together. Like, that's just so awesome. And then they'll be like, oh no, actually Jennifer is the owner. I'm just standing there, and they're like, Jennifer's the owner, and they're like, oh, and it's always like this. Oh, it's you, and so it's like, even just being not triggered by that to be like, yeah, I'm the owner. Like, to me, it's funny because I don't care who you think the owner is, because the check been cleared. Because before we got here today, we got paid. So we don't get no money on the back end. We get our money up front. Everybody done paid. Baby, I done paid this soccer fee, basketball fee, everything else fee.
With those feet, you need all the new cleats. Oh my
listen,
goodness.
you can think that whoever owns this mug, I do not care. But I think that just in general, this was such a good topic, and I'm glad we got to talk about it, because people pleasing in life will boil over into your wedding day, and it will cause you to have that anxiety, have you spending money that you do not have. It will turn into something that's not about the two of you, and it's about other people. And unfortunately, even if you please person A, person B still gonna have something to say. Person D gonna have something to say, because C is good, right? They don't care either way it go, but that's gonna just keep trickling down. So because of that, you might as well not try to please anybody and just do what's best for y'all.
Well, what did we say earlier? The only person you control is who?
It is yourself.
It is. But like, the intentions may be positive with being a people pleaser, but a people pleaser is going to lead to stress. You're going to be burned out. You're going to be anxious. Yes. So why not lean into what you can control, which is you, showing up for you, making sure that you're honoring your wants and needs, and setting healthy boundaries around your day. Like, yeah. You owe it to yourself. All the brides owe that to themselves.
I agree. Thank you for coming on here today.
Oh, thanks.
I appreciate your time. This was so good. And do you share your social media handles?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I mean, look, I'm out there. I can't say that I'm always super active. I'm gonna work on this consistency, Okay. Again, I'm trying to be like you when I grow up. But my Instagram handle is it's Kenitres Wiley. Like, if anybody was ever looking, but that's my Instagram that I'm most, I guess, active on. And then my website for like my online courses and things is mindsetandmindful.com, if anybody's ever looking for me or interested in that. But I say I'm only on Instagram, but I have Mindset Mindful on Facebook as well. So if you're ever looking, that's what it's called. But yeah,
and we'll link these in the episode. They'll be in the description box on the episode and on the YouTube and all that, so you guys can be able to click on that. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and I really appreciate everybody, like I said, for tuning in to the Wedding to Wife podcast, where we talk about all things from wedding planning to wife life, because we all know it is so much more than just getting a ring, right?
It is.
So many things go into it. So every Wednesday we have a new episode, and today is actually Wednesday. So by the time you guys hear this, last week's episode would have came out, and it's out right now. So you can go and catch up. Pretty sure we're like 7 episodes in. And let me tell y'all, for me, that is a huge thing, because being consistent is not always the easiest thing to do, especially when you're doing something that is not making money. So at this point, this podcast does not make any money. So it will, and we're going to come back and we're going to listen to this episode. But when you're doing something where you cannot see the immediate fruits of your labor, it is very difficult. But I want you to stay at it, because I'm going to leave you with this. There's this guy, I do not know his name, but I read this story about him, and he had a YouTube channel. And he would post videos, post. And this went on for like a year. And he would get like 30 views, right? He had maybe like 15 subscribers. He would get like 30 views. And he just kept at it. Well, lo and behold, one of those 30 views that he would get every week was Oprah. And she actually offered him a show on her network. And so now I'm gonna find out his name because I don't remember it. But now he has a show on the OWN network, and so it is a testament to, you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening, you never know where your next paid opportunity is gonna come from somebody saying like, "Hey, I would love for you to come speak here, talk about this here." I just came back from Chicago doing that exact thing, and so you never know when opportunity is going to pop up. So just stay consistent, and it will pay off. It will either pay off in the sense of that being a success, or it will pay off in the sense of you will use that P word, pivoting to something else, and that becoming the thing that actually becomes the success. But you got to stay with it to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
So
look, consistency is key. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get like you.
consistency is key. So
It is.
y'all
Thank
have a
you.
great week, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Thank you so much, Harmony. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.